Rachel Potter, thank you so much for joining us on Sentimental Men today.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
We are very excited to have you today.
I have to say, your recording of Another Suitcase in Another Hall sticks with me to this day. I listen to it very frequently. It is my favorite recording of that song.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. That is so kind. That was one of the most chaotic recording sessions I've ever had in my whole life because, typically in the studio you have unlimited takes, really. I mean, not unlimited, but a reasonable amount. And I had 3 chances.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Because, it's cast recording day. You got to get in there and get it done. The time is money, people. So, yeah, I think I had literally three just full takes. And they were just going to cut from those 3 takes. And
wow.
So somehow it ended up okay, thank God. But thank you so much. It's such an honor to have been on that. I still am flabbergasted that I got to do that.
Okay, so we start every interview with, how did Wicked the musical come into your life as a person? What is your first touch point with the show?
My first memory of Wicked was when I was working at Disney World and someone introduced me to the cast album. Mm-hmm. And I started trying to sing Defying Gravity like it was my job. So everything revolved around that was the pinnacle song, to just be able to belt like that. And so I just remember practicing. This is very embarrassing, but I used to do pageants in Florida to win scholarship money.
Yeah. You're talking to the right boys
sang,
here. We're good.
I sang that as my talent one year. So anyway, just always had been a big fan and obsessed with the show, of course. And I always felt like I was an Elphaba just because I have brown hair and
a pingy belt.
So when I got to New York, I started going in for Elphaba quite frequently. I think I went in 7 or 8 times for the understudy on the road. And a couple of times got through to the dance call. And I remember meeting Christine Dwyer. I mean, the people that were in the dance call, Christine actually mentioned this to me the other day. It was all these women that ended up playing the role.
Right. Because they just keep a file cabinet of everyone they've ever seen.
Yes. It was every single person that was in our dance call ended up being an Elphaba at some point. So I just kept not getting it, right? And I was really discouraged. And I'd been in New York a while. And I was kind of I don't know if this is for me. I think I might move to Nashville.
Were you getting any feedback in these Elphaba auditions?
Not really. Not that I can really, not that really sticks out. I mean, it's been a while, but nothing that I really recall, as it just wasn't, not moving forward was kind of
right.
Well, and especially so at a role like this too, it's it can be about so many things other than you too, that it's not even feedbackable.
Sure. And I am I wouldn't even, I don't know if I'd even classify myself as a strong mover. I am an okay mover. So that was something that I think could have possibly held me back, but I kind of let it go. I decided I was going to, I thought I'd been singing with a wedding band. I'd been really excited about maybe moving to Nashville and sort of transitioning into the world of recording arts perhaps, or, that maybe Broadway wasn't for me. And, I got a call for Dolly.
Ooh.
For the 9 to 5 tour.
Okay, love it.
And so I went in and I mean, stuffed my bra. I think I literally wore 3 bras, just to be looking ridiculous. And I got it. I booked it.
Oh.
Work.
The tour.
Okay.
And at the same time, right in the same week, I think there was a light bulb moment at casting where they were oh, maybe she can play a blonde. Oh, wait, maybe she's a Glinda. And they were hey, they want to see you for Glinda.
That's interesting.
So they said, hey, we want to see you for Glinda. So went in for Glinda. And I remember I really prepared. Because I was really excited for a different opportunity. Because when my agent called me and they're hey, they want to see you for Wicked again, I was oh my God, please no.
Because in your head, were you an Elphaba?
Yeah, in my head, I was Elphaba. And so I was like, "Ah, I don't want to go in for Elphaba again. And they were like, no, Glinda this time. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
went, I could try that. So I went and worked on it a lot, like coached it, memorized it backwards and forwards. I went to Forever 21 in Times Square and bought this teeny tiny, I still have it actually. It's like this, teeny tiny little like light baby blue satin cocktail dress that's like reminiscent of the bubble dress.
Okay.
I rhinestoned it.
Atta girl.
I told you I did pageants, right? So I still had all this rhinestone jewelry. So I wore like 3 or 4 pieces of rhinestone jewelry on every hand and like giant earrings. And I found these like ridiculous like sequin heels. And I did my my hair and my makeup all up. And I remember being in the waiting room and it was like all blonde girls and like these very demure pink dresses with like a tan LaDuca.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I'm never going to get this. Like I look like so stupid compared to these girls. But that was one of those magical auditions for me. We all have those where it's like we can kind of go through the motions, but then occasionally it just clicks. And that was one of those for me where I just, when I walked over the threshold, I just let it all go. And I just decided I was going to have fun and be ridiculous. So I booked it that day. And that was a huge moment. And I remember my agent calling me and I literally fell on the floor.
Was there any kind of hang up about, like you were saying, you had thought of yourself as an Elphaba up until that point? Was there any hesitation or like confusion as to like how they saw you as a Glinda, or was it a pretty natural switch over for you?
I think that there was some slight confusion of just, okay, I'm going in a different role. Okay, that's fine. And perhaps I'd always covet that other role. Like I'd watch my friends play that part and I'd be like, oh, I want to do that too,
Yeah.
But Glinda is such an incredible role that there wasn't any jealousy. Like once I stepped into it, I was just like, oh, this is great. Like this is, there's so much more. I think I just hadn't had my eyes on it. Like my eyes weren't fixated on that role for so long that I didn't really see the meat and potatoes of Glinda.
Yeah.
But then once I had the opportunity to play her and really dug in, like if I ever were to go back, I would prefer to play Glinda. I love that role so very much.
So just so my records are clear, you never ended up going on tour with 9 to 5, right?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
So I had a choice. I had to choose between 9 to 5 and going on tour with Wicked. And I would have played the lead in 9 to 5, but
Right.
I chose
Wow.
the ensemble understudy of Glinda and Wicked. So I was Fanny in the I was Fanny in the ensemble.
So talk us through that decision, giving up a principal contract to understudy on tour.
Well, for me, it was, I think, the magic and the lore of Wicked was like so strong, and I wanted to be a part of that family. It was like I saw the opportunity to potentially move up one day, and like just having that on my resume, I felt was so incredibly valuable. I mean, this was circa 2010. So this was, I think one of the, I think we're entering a new height of Wicked right now. But that was definitely like,
Pre-height.
Another height of Wicked
Yeah.
where it was like, that was it. Like, I remember when we would travel and I had my like Wicked luggage tags on my bag, like people were like, oh my God, you're in Wicked.
Right.
It just felt like I felt like such a cool member of this elite club. It was so, and I still feel that way now. Like I think that there's something about that show that's just like, it's so incredibly special if you get to be a part of it.
So walk us through learning the role of Glinda, and especially because the show had been established, what preconceived notions did you have about it that were dispelled when you were learning it, and what were some of the highs and lows?
So I think that a preconceived notion that I had, because I was very green going into that was like my very first like big Broadway style contract. Like before that, I had only ever done Disney World, and I knew Disney was like, okay, here's the established plan of like what you do. and the moments that you need to hit. But it's like, minimal, and it's a 14-minute show and whatever, but it's still like, this is it. This is the package, like, deliver the package. So I thought when I went into Wicked that it might be more of like, bring your own thing to the role. But it was definitely more like, here is the package, deliver the package.
Right.
Now, I don't think that that's necessarily true if you are the principal. I think that you have a little bit more, and I never got to experience that, as Glinda. So I was a little surprised by that. But my stage manager was actually the one that taught me the role. So, and that's typically how it goes, especially on tours, that the stage manager will basically be the director.
Because you're learning on the road.
Right, learning on the road. So I joined them. I met them in St. Louis, and
Love.
and then we sat down in Minneapolis, Minnesota for nope, Milwaukee. It was Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, and we sat down in Milwaukee for 6 weeks, and that's where I debuted in the show. And so I learned it like in the theater in Milwaukee, just like in a rehearsal space with the dance captains, and it was super intense, and I'd never been more sore in my life.
Yeah.
Learning the dance.
And that's a big show to learn, like, as one person alone in a room, especially your ensemble track, to learn that without the benefit of other bodies around you.
Yes.
Is a very intellectually challenging thing as well, I would imagine.
Yes. And I think that I was learning it with like maybe 2 other people, like a swing and maybe one other person that was a dancer in the ensemble. So yeah, to go from like 5 people in the room to the entire cast when we did the put-in was like crazy. But and I also was learning 2 roles at one time because they wanted me to get up on Glinda pretty fast. So it was like, all right, we're going to focus on your ensemble part today. We're focused on Glinda today, so it was kind of like a ping pong. But it was, I mean, I was in my early 20s, had all the energy. It was all I had to focus on. Like, yeah, it was the perfect time in my life. Like, now I have 3 kids and 2 dogs, and like, I can't imagine taking on something like that right now. Like, I think it would really stress me out, but in a good way, of course, but like, it's still a lot to manage. But like, for that little 25-year-old hungry chick, like, I was happy to be there,
Right.
You were saying you thought of yourself as an Elphaba prior to getting Glinda. I imagine a lot of that is because vocally that's where you lived more. Was there anything vocally tricky about taking on Glinda, or did you have the soprano also?
So funny enough, like, that was how I was trained growing up, was classically. So that actually came more naturally to me than the belting.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was really fun to fall back on and get to utilize, because I hadn't really. But I mean, like, I grew up in classical voice lessons, and then in high school I wasn't involved in theater. I was actually in like show choir, but I would sing like Italian arias for like the state competitions,
Yes.
So that was fun to like get back into that. I remember music rehearsals were like, is this real? Like, I'm singing the Wicked music? Like, this is so crazy. But yeah, so fun. I actually loved my wig, and I loved my wig in the ensemble. I had like this little tiny like black bob with bangs.
So you had said that prior to 9 to 5 and Wicked entering your life at the same time, you had been kind of toying with this maybe Nashville transition, recording artist transition. And then right out of Wicked, you go right into Addams Family and Evita. So was that, in that moment, were you then thinking, oh, maybe theater is more of the path that I'm going to go down? Or were you now trying to do like a parallel careers kind of thing? Like, where were you in that moment?
So Wicked sat down in Memphis. And while we were in Memphis, like on some of my days off, I came down to Nashville to see some friends, because I had thought about it, but I'd actually never been to Nashville until I was on tour.
And that's like the great thing about tour too, is it's like if you were doing the show in New York, you aren't going to be.
Yeah, and you get to see some places like that you would never think of going to. Like one of my favorite places, I actually loved Milwaukee. I loved Minneapolis. I loved Madison, Wisconsin, you know, like just random places that unless you like went to college there or grew up there, you're not like, I'd like to take a trip to Madison, Wisconsin today.
Right.
You know, so it was neat to get to see some places like that. But yeah, so when I saw Nashville, when I came here and I worked with some songwriters and I'd recorded some stuff and I was like, I really got the bug. I just loved it a lot. But, you know, I had always been doing songwriting. I started writing songs when I was like 12. That was always something that I was just inspired to do.
And was it always country music?
No, actually I started as a Christian singer. Please don't look up my album. It's so embarrassing. It's so bad. I was 15. There was no editor. They were just like, oh my God, you're so incredible. You're 15 and writing these songs. Let's record them exactly as you wrote them with no filter. But, you know, it's for what it is. At 15 years old, writing an album, like I should be more proud of it. But
yeah, Katy Perry started as a Christian singer.
She sure did. And in fact, we were Eskimo sisters.
Stop. Oh,
we
my
sure
God.
are.
I love this lore. Okay, that made the interview.
Yes, quaint. Okay, anyway. So I got a few Eskimo sisters out there that are good. I gotta tell you. I really do.
All right, we're gonna get them
All
out.
right. Okay. So I really loved it. I wanted to try it. And so then actually the story of how Addams Family came about is actually pretty funny. So I want to tell you that story. Because it really coincided with my Wicked tour moment. But yeah, it just sort of, you know, struck a chord in my heart, and I was like, I think I want to pursue this. I want to like, and it wasn't even necessarily like I want to move to Nashville. It's just like, yeah, while I'm doing Broadway, I think I want to, you know, get to Nashville when I can and write some songs and, you know, start to do like my own music. So I would write on the road. When I could, when we had off days, I would like try to get over to Nashville when I could. And then when I got back to New York, I would find songwriters and we would write together. Like I remember having like songwriting sessions in my dressing rooms, like between shows, you know, on a Saturday or whatever. So yeah, it just kind of became a parallel thing for me. Like you said, it was something that I was just pursuing alongside of it. And then ultimately, like when Evita closed, I had also gone through a pretty massive breakup, and then my lease on my apartment was up, and I was like, you know what? Maybe now's like the right time to go give this a shot in Nashville. So that's how that ended up happening.
That decision to leave the New York City theater scene, how has that, in retrospect, is that something that you are happy you did?
It's a loaded question for me because I think about what could have been all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If I had stayed.
Mm-hmm.
But if I hadn't come here, I wouldn't have my 3 kids now.
Right.
You know,
Right.
It's like, you ever seen that movie About Time?
Yes.
And it's just like if one decision is different. I mean, it's similar to like a sliding doors or whatever. It's
If
like
then.
Yes. Yes, if then. And
You
so
stop and say hey to a stranger. Yeah.
like you're a whole land. But you know, if like just perhaps one decision would have been different, like everything could be different. And so I think when I kind of get in my feels about like, oh, I wish I hadn't done this, or, you know, what could have been and where could I have been with Broadway now if I'd stayed, I just look at them and I'm like, well, I wouldn't have you.
Yeah.
And, you know, I may have kids now, but it wouldn't be these particular kids.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that sort of keeps me grounded in the worrying about the past. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I do wonder a lot about what could have been. And I think that I was kind of emotional when I left. So, you know, I told you I went through a breakup and it was just like, oh, I'm going to get out of here.
It needed to happen.
Yeah, it wasn't really about Broadway. It was more about my personal life and like just kind of making a switch. And I think I always intended to come back to New York. That was always temporary in my mind. And in fact, my husband and I and our then only one child, who was 3, we tried to move back. In fact, we did move back February 1st of 2020.
Nice. Excellent timing.
So really incredible timing. And I had one of those magic auditions the day before Broadway shut down.
Oh man.
Was Waitress did that ever come across your desk? Because I think you'd be perfect as Jenna.
Before you came on, we were like, she is the dream Jenna. Like
That's so nice. I am so obsessed with Waitress, and I have gotten close to it a lot of times, but never booked it.
Immersive diner production in Nashville. That's the dream.
I have coveted that show ever since the very first time I heard it. In fact, this is so dramatic, but the first time that I ever listened to She Used to Be Mine, I was sitting on my couch holding my newborn.
Get out.
And I just wept. Just wept. Like I listened to the entire score and just cried.
Yeah.
Because I was living it, you know. I wasn't living like the abusive husband part, but I was living.
Thank you
I was
for
living
clarifying.
yes, you're welcome. But I was living that, like, I mean, as men, you're not going to experience this, but when women go through a pregnancy and becoming a new mother, man, it is just crazy how it affects your identity and your sense of self, and like it changes your body, it changes your physiology. It's like, you know, you're all of a sudden like I could feel when my baby was crying. It was like I was connected to this other being in a way that it needed me so much, and there's like so much weight in that. And I think that we're like, as actors and performers, we're so me focused that to move into this other space of like having to be so focused on someone else and someone else needing you so much and not being able to take the time to do the things that you need to do or the things that you want to do it's life changing. It's life altering. And it's, it's a lot. So that's, I'm almost grateful that I experienced that in Nashville and not in New York with the weight of the business around me. I feel a lot for my friends that have that, because I felt my own weight of the business just in Nashville here, because at that time I was really focused on recording arts, and I had a band, and we were like really close to a record deal. We had publishers that were really interested in us, and when they found out I was pregnant, like the shift was so intense, immediate. It was like, oh, give us a call after the baby's born.
Wow.
You're not worth anything to us right now, like pregnant.
Right. We can milk less out of you. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go into Addams Family. Before we leave Wicked, were there aspirations to climb the Wicked ladder and just be in the Wicked machine forever and ever, amen? Or were you ready to move on by the time your contract was done?
No, I had only been in Wicked for 6 months when they called me to do Addams Family. And it was just an audition. You know, they just, my agent called and said, hey, they want to see you for Wednesday. I was like, I'm playing Glinda. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's
tug of war.
Everyone's going to get whiplash.
I'm like, who am I? And I hadn't seen the show. You know, it was fairly new, and I'd been on tour and not focused on that. And so I found like a bootleg on.
We love bootlegs.
I know. I found a bootleg, and I watched it in my hotel room, and I was like, okay, yeah, I could do this, sure. And so I really worked on it. In fact, my buddy Billy Ty, do you guys know Billy Ty?
Yeah.
Yep. He's so talented. He really helped me, as well as David Perlow, who now is, you know, he owns an acting studio. He was also a Fiero, married to Ali Stroker. He was my Fiero as well. And so the two of them really helped me with the Wednesday material while I was on the road. And so my whole plan, so I got to tell you my audition story.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So we're in Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's it's like January. It's very cold outside. Or maybe it's December. It doesn't matter. It's very cold outside.
I think it's the first time I'm realizing Kalamazoo is a real place.
I told you, you get to see a lot of cool places on tour.
Kalamazoo,
that you never visit.
Chattanooga.
So my plan is I found a flight that was like really inexpensive out of Akron, Ohio, which was like in between Kalamazoo and wherever we were going next. And I was driving the tour, so I had my car.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A lot of people do that. They'll like drive their, and if it's a really long haul, they'll like ship their cars and fly. So I'm like, okay, after the show Sunday night, I'm going to drive to Akron. I'll stay in a hotel for a few hours, like, because, you know, the show's long, it gets over at like 10. So I'm thinking, you know, this is going to be a 4-hour drive. I'll get there at 2 a.m. and sleep for a few hours, hop on the plane. Or maybe I was planning to sleep in my car. I don't know. I was crazy. I was in my 20s.
I was going to say, I was like, this is a very 25-year-old approach to like, I'll sleep on the ground for 2 hours. I'll be fine. Like,
yes, that's probably
who
my
needs
plan.
sleep? Who needs, yeah.
I'll put my seat back in my car and sleep in my car. So I'm like, okay, I'll drive. Well, what was supposed to be like a 4-hour drive turned into 8 because there was a blizzard. And your girl is from Florida, and I did not know how to drive in snow. Oh, and I was so scared, but like determined. Like I wasn't going to not go. And that's so 40-year-old Rachel would be like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make it.
You should turn around.
Like, I might die. Thank you. Can we reschedule? But instead, I'm like, I got to get there, you know? So I'm literally driving behind a salt truck for 8 hours because this 4-hour drive, like I'm driving half speed, like just like praying. I get off at the exit and I kid you not, I was like, I had to use my GPS to navigate where the road was on the curve. Like I wasn't even sure. I couldn't see the road. I'm like, I hope I don't go into a ditch. Right. And then I get to the parking lot and it's 3 feet of snow in the parking lot. And I just parked where I thought might be a parking spot. Like I couldn't even see lines. Like I didn't know. I'm walking in. It's probably 5 a.m. at this point. I don't know if that maths, but something like that. And I'm all by myself in this parking lot of the airport. Walking up to the airport and I like slip on a curb and hit the snow.
No.
And I'm like, oh God, thank God I'm the only one out here. Nobody saw that. And all of a sudden I hear, are you okay? Cool. So going to the airport, it's probably literally an hour before my flight. I sleep for about an hour and a half on my flight, get in. I take the bus. Like, I don't know. What was I trying to save money? Like, I'm not sure. So I take the bus from LaGuardia into my friend Marty Thomas's apartment. I go take my shower. And then my friends Kyle Kleibacher and Torian Everett, who is currently in Death Becomes Her.
Uh-huh. Oh, love.
They live right next to Marty. And so I went over to their house and they like coached me on the sides that morning. And then
oh my God,
I was like, I mean, we're talking 1.5 hours of sleep right now. But what's so funny is that I was so tired that I swear that my energy was like correct for Wednesday when I walked in the door.
How's the voice though?
It was okay. I was 25, you know?
Right.
I could, not today, but back then I could do just about anything, you know? And I was so tired that I think I literally walked in the door like, I'm here.
It's so perfect.
And I put like baby powder on my face to like look really pale and did like really dark makeup. And I like caught a glimpse of myself on the subway coming back. And I was like, oh God, scary. You look creepy. But yeah, that was wild. And yeah, I booked that day. And then just like flew back to tour and finished it out. But I didn't know I booked it for a little while. And I found out like in the house with a bunch of my castmates. And that was really special. But yeah, there was a lot of conflict for me about leaving. But I think it was like, oh, well, of course I'm going to take this. It's a Broadway principal role.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's incredible. But I did have high hopes to stay with Wicked for a long time. And I have auditioned to go back for years. But it's turned into that same thing again, where it was like they started seeing me for Elphaba again. And they're like, you're not an Elphaba. And I'm like,
You know that technically too.
I don't know what it was but they wanted to see me as Elphaba, and then it just never happened. And I'm okay with it. I've let it go. I think that I'm really grateful for the time that I did have with Wicked, and I get to sing Defying Gravity with symphonies sometimes, and that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'll probably end up as Madame Horrible one day.
I'm waiting for the first Elphaba Glinda to return as Madame Horrible.
Yeah. No, that's definitely my bucket list. Morrible is a sick part. Let's be so for real right now.
I think they could cycle through the girls 6 weeks at a time for Madame Morrible. Whatever the minimum is to get you all your health insurance, let's just do it. A cute little 10-week stint. Boom.
I think I would be a good Morrible. I'm just saying, give me 10 years. I'm gonna
More
be
than 10
so
years.
good.
I want to see what you're going to wear to the Marble audition. Powdered face, a big wig maybe, sequins.
I'll have to go to the costume shop for that. Yes. I'm sure I could put together an ensemble for that. For sure.
Kevin, do you want to ask the question?
Yes, I do want to ask the question before we move on from the Wicked verse. When you were playing the role of Glinda, were you a No One Mourns the Wicked Glinda, a popular Glinda, or a Thank Goodness Glinda?
I was a Thank Goodness Glinda.
Why?
Thank Goodness, I think, reveals Glinda in the realest way, where it shows kind of I think some deep-seated issues for her of needing to put on a very put-together front, which to me meant her family was very intent on that in public, this is how we are. It's like a country club family.
Yeah.
But she was silently struggling. And there were some things that I really related to her in, where it was she was extremely determined to get what she wanted. Surprised, that whole thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
With yeah, we're engaged. You knew you were going to ask me anyway. I went ahead and bought the ring.
Right.
So I can relate to her drive and determination of no, this is what we're doing. This is what I want. And don't you want it too? Of course you do. So,
right.
I mean,
right.
I'm not that much of a jerk, but, but I think that she was, she's just deeply flawed. And I think that that's where you get to see it. And I love that. I love the bridges you crossed, you didn't know you crossed until you crossed. And also the whole theme behind happy is what happens when all your dreams come true, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Right.
Because I think that, and I think we all have experienced moments of that in our lives where something happens that you've been working towards for so long that you have convinced yourself is going to change everything. And then nothing changes. And you don't really feel any joy when it happens. You're oh, I did it. Why don't I feel different? The depth of no, it's you. This has to come from you. Your happiness, your self-worth, all of that has to come from within. And it's not going to be an outside, checking a box of a dream or whatever. Those dreams are good to go after. But the thing that's going to give you joy has to come from inner peace,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if she's ever going to get there.
At least not before the finale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wicked Part
not
3.
within the confines of the show. She does not find it,
Yeah, when they make a third movie, they'll explore that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned feeling green when you went into Wicked, and then you moved on from Wicked and went into a Broadway principal contract. Was there anything in your time with Wicked that you learned that you feel prepared you to go into Wednesday?
Oh, for sure. I think just all the inner workings of how rehearsals were going to work. And Addams Family was even quicker. I mean, I only had 2 weeks of rehearsal for that. So that was instant. We were right there. But it was, just understanding dynamics of how a company works and, who's in charge and all of those things. So it was really good to have learned all of that when I, went into Broadway. I still made mistakes. I was young and was late too many times and things like that. Things that were just young person, unprofessional stuff. But it's all a learning curve, right? And you can only know what you know. And so yeah, it was great. And learning how important the dance captains were and how, it was like integral to be a team with them, and that they were noting you after the show and they were pretty much teaching you the show. So I just have utmost respect for the swings and the dance captains. Like, good God, the information that they keep in their heads.
Okay, so tell us about this new album that you have coming out that will be out by the time people are listening to this.
Yes.
Yes. And also I want to add to this question is like, there seems to be this great overlap between like Broadway artists and Nashville artists and like the chops that are required to be great in both fields overlap. And I think you're such a good example of that. So I would be curious your take on that as well.
Thank you. That's so sweet. I had obviously like I tried to move back to New York. COVID happened, but I had really decided like I have been having fun doing country music, but it has never really felt like me. It felt like something I could do, like it was a mask I could wear and I could put it on because I loved the style, but like who I really was in my heart was a storyteller. And I think that's why I related to country music in that way, because that is one of the things that kind of overlaps with country and Broadway. But I was a storyteller, but also I became who I am today. Like my early 20s were spent in gay bars. That's where I developed my sense of humor. You know what I mean? Like in open mic nights at the Duplex. So like, and the things that I love about the storytelling aspects and everything of country music, like, yes, but that's not where I'm rooted. I'm rooted in musical theater. And when I go to New York, I feel like I'm home. These are my people, and I don't think, there's so many. I just did the Janice Jam for Matt DeAngelis, and we had a bunch of friends that were singing, and there were, so many people. Like I ran into Caroline Bowman is a great example. Like I love her, and we chat on Instagram. Dude, I don't even remember if we've ever actually met before. But it's like, we are part of this community, so therefore we are friends.
Yeah.
And when we see each other, we hug, how are you? Instantly we're talking about real stuff. Like, that is our community. And we're also just so supportive of one another. And I really love that about Broadway. And so that community has always been super, super important to me. But to get back to the album. So I tried to move to New York. I had decided that like, that is where I want to be. I want to go back. Broadway is it for me. And I want to try again. And so then COVID totally obviously ruined that plan. And so I came back to Nashville and just kind of put my head down. And in that space and in that time, you remember like music was not where we were going to make money for a little while.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got really focused on real estate actually and decided to have another kid and had my middle son, Elliot. He was my COVID baby. And so I started selling new construction real estate in Nashville, and just kind of like made a very clear decision in my mind that music didn't exist for a little while. Like I can't, if I'm not thinking about it, I can't be sad about it. So I'm just going to have tunnel vision and just sort of put it away for a while. The years passed and, I'm 4 years into real estate and I sort of went, okay, I really miss music. I need to figure out a way to put it back in my life. And I don't like where my relationship is with music right now. So we got to fix it.
Yeah.
And so I started dreaming up this plan of doing an album, and I went and sat with a friend of mine named David Wise, who's a really fabulous producer here in Nashville. So that's one benefit that I had being in Nashville is like tremendous producers and musicians and engineers and all of it just like right here at my fingertips.
Right.
I went to him and I said I had this vision, that I had been singing with symphonies since like 2014. I got this really interesting opportunity to do a pop symphony show called Country Legends, which sort of married my Broadway credits and the fact that I'd been on X Factor as a, reality show contestant.
The Search for Elle Woods.
The Search for Elle Woods. I kind of married all those things because they like having those types of credits for their pops performers, and it worked out great. And I got to travel and do this like really neat country show, and I just I loved singing with symphonies. I mean, it was like, it gives you the same kind of feeling as when you, like, the Wicked score is like the closest thing I think on Broadway to what it feels like to sing with a symphony, because Wicked's so lush.
Mm-hmm. It's a wall of sound that you're...
Yes, a wall of sound.
Yeah.
That's totally it. And it's a goosebump moment, So I just loved that. And I was like, I think I want to do like a symphony Broadway album and bring some of my favorite like Broadway songs, like really bring them to life even more with like a full orchestra arrangement. So this was like self-funded, and I saved my money and just decided that this was going to be something that I just did for me. I just want to do a project that can be a legacy, like where I feel like, this is probably, I don't want to look back in 10 years and go like, oh, that was my vocal height and I missed it,
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that at some point we do reach like the top, and then it starts to slowly go down. And I hope to always be in good vocal health, of course, but like
Maintenance.
I want to capture maintenance, but I wanted to capture what I've been working for so long and what I'd been working on. And when I looked at my catalog on Spotify, it's like all country. It's like, this is great that I was able to do this, but what I have really worked 10,000 plus hours on is musical theater, the genre of musical theater, learning to sing like this. And I want to capture that. I want to like have something for my kids to be like, look what my mom did,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not, not to be morbid or anything, but you just never know like how long you have, never know how much time you have here. And I don't want to leave this earth and go, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was so much more I wanted to do. I didn't make my musical theater album.
On your deathbed.
No.
Oh, life of the party.
That would have changed lives.
Do you have a favorite track on the album?
Yes. I think maybe my favorite track is the Come What May I Love You song mashup. I think that's my favorite one. That one was the one I was really unsure about, but it came together really beautifully. But I mean, like, it's very hard for me to choose. There's so many on there that are really special to me, but
I think the Matilda medley is beautiful.
oh, thank you. I'm so obsessed with Voctave. They're so cool. And that's my son, actually, singing on it.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
My son and my best friend's little girl.
That's really cute.
Yeah, we recorded them right here on this mic, actually.
Can you talk to us about, you have a lot of very cool guest artists on on this upcoming album. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you went about inviting people in?
Everyone that's on the album is a friend. So that was, I really believe in like I think that there's something that happens probably in all aspects of businesses, but I only know this one. But it's sort of like everybody that moves to New York kind of all around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're a class, and then they become like a graduating class together. And everyone that is a part of this is in my graduating class. These are the people that I was singing at the duplex with.
Right.
These are the people that I was waiting tables with. These are the people that I was, doing 17 shows a day at Disney World with. It's important for me to bring those people along with me, if for nothing else than like, I enjoy their company. And I also happen to think that they're some of the most talented people in the world, so like there's some...
And they're safe collaborators.
Yeah, they're totally safe. And I know what I'm getting from them. I know that they're going to bring everything that they've got to the table. And so that was sort of like my number one goal, was to just like, if we're not working with people we love, then like, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice too, because this group of people is so much a part of those 10,000, 100,000 hours that you spent honing your musical theater craft. So to include them in this is really special.
Thanks. They're totally all a part of my journey. And Ali Stroka was probably the first one I called because I knew I wanted to do Some Things Are Meant to Be. And she married David Perlow, who was my Fiero, as I mentioned. And so she and I got really close. And, you know, she had a child. And so all through her pregnancy and becoming a mother, like she called me a lot, which was really special for us to get to connect in that way. And so we have a really deep friendship, and so it was really kind of her to do that. And she loved that song, so she said yes immediately. And then Omar Cardona and EJ Cardona, those two I worked at Disney with. Literally, Omar and I did High School Musical, like circa 2005, dancing and singing in 100-degree like Florida heat outside.
Was probably in an audience for that at some point.
Yes, I hope so. We were killing it. We're all in this together. I remember I blacked out on that high note a couple of times from the heat. Then, like, Natalie Weiss, God, she's such a phenomenal voice. Like, she's crazy.
And of that same class, that same
graduating
early
class.
YouTube era.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, Natalie and I met, I don't even know. I don't even remember when we met because we've just known each other for so long. And we met like singing at a New Works thing at Joe's Pub or
at
something.
The duplex.
Yeah. One of those open mic night things. And we all knew who Natalie Weiss was because of her beautiful, YouTube covers and everything. But through the years, we've like taught some master classes together, and we've always remained friends. I still go to her sometimes for like voice lessons if I need some help. Like, yeah, she's just, I respect her so much. And I had put together that Les Mis medley, and I was originally going to sing it all by myself. Like, it wasn't going to be a duet. I was just going to go back and forth, and I was like, actually, this would be such a cool duet, but I want it to be kind of pop. I kept kind of cycling through, who should I ask? And I just kept coming back to Natalie. When I would imagine who could do what they could do with their voice, I was like, oh, it's Natalie. So she's just so good. And then Voctiv, I mentioned them before, but so the director, producer, arranger, the guy that oversees the whole thing, his name is Jamie Ray, and we have been friends since I was 9 months old. I've literally known him pretty much my whole life. And so I just felt kind of lucky that I just accidentally ran across all these really talented people through my life and got to collect them and put them in my pocket.
Well, it's a really beautiful album, and congratulations on getting it done and out. It's called Stages, and it is available to stream now.
It was a labor of love, and hopefully my kids think it's worth it because they didn't see me very much the past year and a half.
Rachel, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us.
Oh my gosh. It is my absolute honor. I'm just such a fan of you guys, and thanks for all the good work that you're doing in the theater space, and you guys are awesome.
Thank you. And we'll see you back in New York one day.
Yes.
I hope so.
Yeah. Pandemic not invited.
Yeah.
No more pandemics.
God.